Hello, once again. Thank you for joining us. This is Street Yan's podcast, as usual, and it's your boy Ade Boy. Joining me once again is Emmanuel Ade, and today we'll be touching on
Yep.
the Nigerian Labour Congress issue and their struggles with the Nigerian and the federal government, or we'll say their fight on behalf of the people with the federal government. The fact that we don't even know who they are fighting for or whose interest they are fighting for is one of the things that we want to talk about today. However, we don't want to jump into conclusions about anything, but we just want to look at all sides of the story and see where the conversation leads us. And so, Ade,
Yep.
what
So
is this whole thing about this Labour Congress thing? Because at the end of the day, on one side, we're hearing that, okay, they are fighting for the sake of the people,
the people.
subsidy, this.
Mm,
But I think a few weeks ago, they had meetings with the government and they came back to
mm,
say, oh, everything is sorted out. We, and then last week, they suddenly organized a protest. And after the protest, like 1 day protest, and then they had another meeting.
mhm.
Why this back and forth? What exactly is going on? Do they expect that realistically, between the first time they said they were going on strike and now, that everything they asked the federal government to do, they will have done it? Or is it that maybe some federal government too is playing some games that we don't understand? Are they over to you?
Thank you very much for that question, bro. Make we no lie. Make we no lie. We don't know what is going on. Because in meeting, I would probably say gone are the days where Labour Congress had strong influence. When we say strong influence, practically strong influence on decisions the government make. We remember days where our other comrade Oshomole of those days would pull a call for strike and they don't even bomb private companies to say they want to sit or come to work or have a day to run. But today, you see the Labour Congress pulling for strike, only for you to want to have your seat at home and hear that the strike has been called off. Nowadays, it's not like a bluff. It's more like, are we on? No, we are not. It's
like
like,
like
yeah, we
if you
just
don't
pranked
prepare
you.
to
It
go
was
to
a
work on
prank
Monday
video.
morning, you can just
Like,
be shocked that your mates are at
I'm
work.
telling you. So it's not like it was a prank, Joe. We just pranked you. So the way they make prank videos nowadays, and you're like, are you for real?
NLC
Are
don't
you
do
for real?
skits.
No, you know they do skits. Their seriousness doesn't pull anymore. It doesn't pull. It doesn't come forth. So the funny thing is, when it has become this established, we come to ask ourselves that what really is even going on. The last meeting they called that there will be strike and everything. I knew a lot of people who were actually hoping it should be strike. That I have to sit at home. I even had someone who told me there must be strike. Oh, and after asking why, it was like I want rest. I'm tired. So it wasn't
Imagine.
even based on the fact that there was a notion the strike was going to go for, but it was on the concept of I want rest. And then we still have the people who are conversant with the notion, but in reality to the notion, is it possible to still get what they're asking for? Because the essence of the strike, or the essence why the strike was supposed to hold, because of the strike that became a protest. The essence of the strike was let's get the government to realize that this for subsidy stuff is telling heavily on civilians. Bro, if you walk around Lagos State now, take a drive, anything, Lagos free, my brother. If this same Lagos, where we dey almost die inside traffic.
Traffic. Wow.
I'm telling you, place we say norms, we visit 30 minutes, 1 hour inside traffic, which normally is supposed to be. Now you flange just through it. It's so easy. There's no need to be two-time conscious nowadays. Everywhere is just free. It's just free. Like government do this one everywhere free.
So now, if you look at it, when we're talking
Mm,
about okay NLC, now naturally the role of the Nigerian Labour Congress,
mm-hmm,
and remember, I think I back then, you were talking about there was a time where
mm-hmm,
Adams Oshiomhole was the NLC president, and when he says strike, in fact, even
mm-hmm.
shoemaker would go on strike, not just
I'm telling
not
you.
just
I'm
government
telling you.
workers, not just
Mm,
private individuals, even entrepreneurs will follow
mm-hmm,
suit. And then you see people on the
yeah.
street marching. You see the likes of Gani
Mm-hmm,
Fawemi and Beko Ransom Kuti in the protest leading
mm-hmm,
the charge. But now, I think one
mm-hmm.
of the things that watered down the powers of NLC, if I remember, is President Obasanjo then
I'm
that
telling you.
divided it into two unions. The
Mm,
TUC and the NLC. So in that
mm,
wise, a little bit of the powers of the NLC was taken away. Now they had two unions that they had to that. So if one is, both of them have to agree before any major decision they want to make can be taken.
mm-hmm,
On the other part of this is there's now the question of interest in whose
mm,
interest? Fine, we all always agree that fine, the Labour Congress, they want the fuel price to be returned to the old pump price. My first thing is,
mm,
do they not understand what we are saying when it comes to the need for subsidy to go?
mm,
And then on the other part, you are asking for, because when I saw their demand, number one, you're asking the government to continue to pay subsidy. At the same time, you're asking government to increase minimum wage.
no wage. Mm-hmm,
How is
mm-hmm,
this realistic? How do you balance this out? Am I the only one seeing it from this angle of it doesn't make sense? And then there's also the
mm,
question of the legitimacy of these interests. When you come today and say, oh, federal government has spoken to us on a round table, let us
mm,
go back to work. Then tomorrow you are coming again
mm,
to protest. What are you aiming for within that short space of time? Do you expect that, okay, within 1 month, government should have increased minimum wage? At the same time, maybe you have a better understanding of the demands of NLC. For me, I feel like it is contradictory, especially in terms of
very. Mm-hmm,
subsidy. Government is saying that it has limited resources. We
mm-hmm,
understand the fact that people are suffering. Of course, that one
mm-hmm,
is a major thing. And government is
mm-hmm,
saying, okay, we'll give palliatives. But each time you come to
mm-hmm.
protest, you go back to old pump price, as if it is government that should just unanimously or unitarily decide the price of fuel, as if subsidy
Okay.
is not a thing. They will not say, please continue to pay subsidy. They will just say, no, take us back to the old price of fuel. You know that taking us
Mm.
back to the old price of fuel means that government should continue to pay subsidy. Why don't you, as NLC, understand the reality behind this subsidy payment that it has to stop? Why are you not focusing your energies on saying, okay, you know what? We all agree that subsidy must stop. Okay, now that subsidy has stopped, these are our demands. I feel like going back to the old fuel or price of fuel should not even be on the table.
On the table, yeah, yeah. Because actually they are being unrealistic. We know it's something they actually do know also. That the subsidy money before was taking a bunch of over 60% of the national economy. I mean national budget. And it had gotten to a point where the government was beginning to owe NNPC,
Yeah.
and they're like,
You can't continue
government
that way.
had borrowed to a point where you could not pay back the World Bank, and they could also not pay NNPC for the
Subsidy, that those ones that paid upfront.
so it's not at a point where they have to find a means to actually generate funds for the nation, because you like it or not, the nation is there now. Even the internal revenue that is being produced, I mean that is being sourced, the people are already beginning to shout they are not getting enough money and you are sucking them dry. Now, we all know that in the world today, one of the things with petroleum is it is determined by world market.
Yeah.
In Nigeria, because it's a new thing that subsidy is being taken off and that we are seeing it the way it is now, we tend not to understand that, most people rather tend not to understand that we are now dealing at a world market value.
Mm.
We would now have to come to the ratings of the world market. Since the government no longer has the funds to pay for this, and we rather use the generated funds to do other things to find means to increase wages for the people. If you look at it now, recently, after the government spoke and worked on minimum wage and everything for the people in government and everything, some parastatals kicked in. If you look at finance, bank and banking industries, financial industries, they followed suit, found a way to actually increase money for their workers.
Yeah, to augment the
But when it
salaries.
comes to exactly, when it comes to the private aspect, so we know that they're very, very, very wicked before. So they found a way to not actually increase people's money yet, but still are demanding as much as. And we can see the place of the government also still trying to work on. Okay, let's talk about the state. So let me take it from the federal aspect now. Let's talk about the state. In Lagos State, for example, the government tried to make it cheaper in sense of transportation because that's one of the major deals that affects everybody generally.
Mhm.
So if you are buying fuel, you are buying fuel from pocket. But if you are using the public transport, the government decided only 50% of their own transportation. We don't know how much transportation they have. We don't know how much, if it's actually valuable in the sense that a lot of people will be able to work along with that. Maybe a lot of people will be able to actually see the transportation to work with. And then, was it a day or 2 days ago, I was kind of carrying out the rubbish, and the 50% on government bus actually has taken its effect and it's going nice. But the yellow buses, on the other hand, there are complaints here and there that despite even their chairman, Uluomo, coming out to say that these things are being implemented and would have to work, hasn't actually worked because of the bills that go from junction to collecting funds.
Mm.
So despite the money the government has actually dropped for this to work, the bus fee itself, the yellow bus fee itself hasn't still dropped because of
So basically,
the
I guess the point you're making is
mm-hmm,
that for when the government, general government, has made a policy that should make life easy for people, the
mm,
people in their own small government where they are ruling are
mm,
still making life
my
difficult
brother,
for their people.
you get it. Yeah, just like bail is free. That is the exact same thing going on. So when it comes down to place of NLC trying to actually fight for somebody and we are not knowing in reality how, because these things actually need analysis. I don't know if they don't have an economist in their midst or they don't have somebody educated in politics or government, societal values and the rest. I don't know. So the thing is, when you come down to how to actually run the government or how to actually run an economy, there are things you should know that naturally you have to keep one out for one to work.
Mm.
You can't still keep on running subsidy and be expecting palliative.
Yeah.
Or can't keep on running, or should I say what most people are talking about, which in reality doesn't make so much sense also. Because people are saying we could have probably not kicked off the whole subsidy like 100%. And if there is, even if it's at 20%, or you kick it out at, yeah, you kick it out 20%, you are still paying subsidy.
Yeah.
What you are doing is you practically reduced, not really reduced, you just made the subsidy a longer term, like a longer term or something. If you're paying probably 500 before, and then you decide to pay 250. Now, what you are doing is there will be an increment on the price. Still, you are still paying 250, but now it will now be for a longer period of time because it's more like a contract base.
Mm.
So if you're supposed to pay 500 for 2 years before, you're now paying 250 for 4 years.
Yeah. Just like to your point, it's almost like the case of NLC with the. I'm happy you brought up the fact that if within their caucus or their group they have
Mhm.
somebody who is
Mm,
sound in economic issues, I feel like it would
mm,
have been easy for them to understand the fact that at least maybe even easy for them to streamline their demands. Years
mm.
after years, one of the
Exactly.
reasons they've always protested or gone on strike is they want increase in salary of their workers, increase in
Mm-hmm.
salary. Even while the
Mm-hmm.
government was paying subsidy back in the day. Now the government has
Mm-hmm.
said, okay, we need to stop subsidy so that we can have money to even negotiate that minimum wage increase that you are talking about. And now we are
Mm-hmm.
saying that no, go and steal if you have to. We want to continue to buy fuel at a cheap, unrealistic price and keep enriching a
Mm.
few people, while at the
Mm.
same time, you continue to give us even more money to increase
More
our
money.
salary.
Mm.
And be like, bro, how is this? And then on the other part of it is this. By the time they want to go on strike now, truly, when
Mm-hmm.
government MDAs, the ministries, departments, and agencies go on strike, obviously everybody is
Mm-hmm.
affected. It simply means that maybe road safety will
Mm-hmm.
not work. You won't be able to get your driver's license. If your car was impounded, you won't be able to collect it back.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to get passport in passport office, you may not be
Mm-hmm.
able to. All those things affect everybody, true. But at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
when the salary, when the benefits they are asking for are done, especially when government says, you know what, subsidy cannot come back. Okay, we'll give you more money in salary. They
Mm-hmm.
agree, and everybody that has joined them in the strike, that is not a federal government worker, that is not gaining anything
Yeah.
directly
No.
from that salary increase, now has to go back to work. And now,
Yes.
why are we fighting on your behalf if the benefit is not? It's not like when government increases minimum wage, it is going to translate. In
Mm.
America,
Good. Mm.
minimum wage
Mm-hmm.
is minimum wage, whether federal government, state government, or local government. If you like,
Mm.
the job should be cleaning. You are cleaning toilets. You have a right to
Mm.
demand that you are paid at least the minimum wage. So in that kind of scenario, that means that if there is any fight for increase in minimum wage, it is to the
It goes
benefit
all
of
around.
everybody,
Everybody.
not
Mm.
just federal government workers or state government workers. And that's the funny thing again. NLC fights for federal workers mostly. State workers
Mostly, yeah.
are always left on their own. Yet, when you
Mm-hmm.
declare this strike, everybody has to comply.
Everybody.
There are people that are on the streets right now. The yard that sells Indomie beside her house,
Mm.
you expect
Mm.
that she should not pate. But
Oh yeah,
when
that's actually one of the funny things. I'm really sorry for cutting. That's one of the funny things I saw. I'm sure you might have seen one very popular frame where a lady child carrying a flag and something like that, going along with the protest. And I was wondering how will this strike actually
benefits you,
be of a great benefit to this woman? Like, I'm not sure.
and
I'm not
honestly,
sure she understands what is really
if
going on.
we now look at it deeply, one thing we realize is that it's not like NLC does not understand the fact that subsidy has to go, right? But they have to include that in their demands because they want to carry every other person along. They know
Carry
that it is
along
not
a lot.
realistic to say,
Exactly.
let the fuel price come down. But
Mm.
what are we going to use to be able
Mm.
to say we are fighting for everybody's interest so that people can join us?
For
Let's ask
everybody.
for reduction in fuel price. We know it's not realistic. We know that the moment
Make
government
that the head.
says, you know what, minimum wage is now 200K, we'll go back to work and leave
Mm.
that Indomie seller
Mm-hmm.
at our own with our own
Exactly.
fate. But we'll now just make it look like we are fighting for the interest of the Indomie seller.
You know, the funny part was the aspect where a friend was actually arguing or making the federal workers or the state workers actually have an increment in minimum wage is going to water down to the people on the street.
Eventually.
And eventually, thank you. And it's a very brilliant idea. But I have to explain also that it's a process.
Yeah.
Before it comes down to the lowest level of market, it would have first of all gotten to the higher level of market
Yeah.
and sustained a lot at that realm before it comes down again, before it comes down again, before it comes down again. So it's all good, yeah. It's all good.
Thank God. I think when we talked about this issue the last time, we talked about
Mm-hmm.
the possibility of increase in minimum wage as one of the good things that would eventually
Mm-hmm.
trickle down and benefit people. True, we recognize this, but the problem is just that the trickle down effect. Like I think it was David Ricardo or Thomas Malthus that brought that economic idea out. That you know what, let people eventually in the economy, when people amass wealth, it trickle down to everybody else. It is not always that quick.
Easy.
It is not
At least you can see it now.
exactly.
You know how many people have a man's fiance.
Yeah,
But I mean, we
that
only hear
Indomie
things
seller.
like they are holding money.
Yeah. That Indomie seller on the street is not, when she wants to sell her
Mm,
Indomie, she's not going to ask the person
mm.
buying that, wait, are you a civil servant? If you're a civil servant, the
Exactly.
Indomie is 100 naira for you. But if you're not a civil servant, the Indomie is 50 naira. Because they've increased your minimum wage, so you should pay more.
It's increasing.
You get, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
And so eventually,
Mm.
that eventual time that we're talking about, that we say it will trickle down,
Mm-hmm.
people, it is still
Mm-hmm.
not solving the immediate problem of people.
Problems at
Fine, we
all.
don't agree
At all.
with sharing money for people. That doesn't make sense. But at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like in this case, since we are talking primarily about NLC, we are not really saying that they are not fighting for the interest of people. Civil servants are Nigerians too,
Mm-hmm.
right? But
Yeah.
they should let the federal government breathe a little bit.
Very
They should let the federal government breathe a little bit. We should know, if we are going to give the federal government time to be able
good.
to bring policies, let us give the federal government time. If you want to fight for
Mm-hmm.
increase in
Mm-hmm.
minimum wage,
Mm-hmm.
let your workers be the one to go on strike. Fight,
Mm.
let people know you are fighting for your personal interest. We don't even want to go into the part of the conversation about, are they really fighting for people's interest, or they've become an
For
agitation
particular
group
part.
affiliated to one particular party. You get, there's still that, which is a whole conversation of its own.
On his own.
Yeah, but even if you don't want to
Very
go
true.
into propaganda, in reality, I like the point you made about if you have sound economists amongst you, if you have people who understand the importance of removal of subsidy, fighting for the return of fuel price to a particular amount cannot be a realistic request that you are making of the government.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you have any
Very
other
good.
points as a closing remark.
Well, since we are not going to enter the place of Basbos, I think we should leave it.
Because honestly, that area of Glasgow is another thing.
It's another thing
Because
entirely.
honestly, the affiliation, the partisans position that NLC took in this last election was a very, very big miss strategically for
Yes.
them. And it's one of the things that has removed a little bit of their legitimacy right now to fight for the quote-unquote people's interest. There's that question of legitimacy, and then there's the question of even the ordinary person on the street, the illiterate on the street, understands the need to remove subsidy. What they are just asking for is that, okay, let us see the benefit of the fact that you have removed subsidy. Let us see the palliative measures. Let us see where that money you are saving. Let's see where it is translating to.
That's it. Exactly.
Find a way to use those saved resources to help our lives. If we're going to be paying so much for fuel, let us have that succor in every other aspect of our lives so that we can know why we are making that sacrifice. But then you are now coming, all of you are supposed to be educated, you are supposed to be the leaders of industries and everything, and to say, let us go back to the old fuel price. At the same time, let government increase minimum wage. At the same time, let government increase the working condition of workers. Come on, let's be realistic. No matter how rich we think government can be, government is not working with unlimited resources. Every resources is still limited. And then there's also the question of, refineries. They keep talking about refineries. Last, we all know that the question of corruption within our government is something that makes us all have anxiety about whether they are saying the truth or not. But still, these refineries will not work overnight. They did not work in 8 years of Obasanjo. They did not work in 8 years of Yar'Adua, or is it even 8 years, or how many years was that? 12 years of Yar'Adua Jonathan. Unfortunately, they did not work in 8 years of Buhari. We don't expect that they are going to work within the last time NLC had a sit down with federal government and now. Exactly. So let us chill. I feel like that's my own closing remark. Let's just chill. Let's just be patient for this government.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
Let's just be patient.
That's actually wonderful.
All right. Thank you, Ade, for joining us with me today in this episode. I think we've been able to touch on the critical things, even though it's a brief recording. And to our viewers, we'll try to listen to your feedback in terms of trying to make the conversations brief. And I guess over time, when we get to situations where we have to stretch the conversations, maybe we'll make it into 2 parts. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for listening. We hope you like our podcast, you subscribe, and you always watch. Ade, you have anything to say?
Just a big shout out to our ladies doing good.
Yeah. In fact, the two major women's sports, basketball team and the Super Falcons, they are really making us proud. So shout out to them.
Really making us proud.
Yeah, we don't support women's sports enough in this country. We should, because they are reaching heights that even the Super Eagles have not gotten to, and we really need to celebrate them more. I'm happy you brought that up, Ade.
What you said is actually true. Because most times it's after they've actually won the tournament or they are close to final
that we
before
hail
we get
them.
to follow up and pull up on them.
Yeah.
Big ups to them.
True. Big ups to them.
I'm telling you.
We actually hope that
we love you.
By the time this recording drops, we don't know if the Super Falcons will still be in the World Cup or they'll be out, but we hope that they will still be in the World Cup, and we wish them all the luck. And for the Tigers team, the basketball team that won their competition, let me be correct, and shout out to you ladies. We are proud of you, and we'll continue to support you. All right, we'll sign out here. Thank you.